Welcome to the Beyond Woman Conversations. I'm Jacqueline Johnson, your host. Here is where we explore the conversations that help women to heal, grow, lead, and thrive. But before we begin, have you read the Beyond Woman magazine? Each issue features inspiring stories, practical insights, and powerful conversations, all designed to help women move forward with purpose and confidence. Visit www.TheBeyondWomanMag.com to explore our latest editions and become part of our growing community. Now, let's dive into today's conversation. Welcome to another Beyond Woman Conversations podcast, and today we're talking about learning to be seen without becoming someone else. There's a quote by Maya Angelou that says, "There is no greater agony than bearing an untold story inside you." And so for many women, especially Caribbean women, the challenge isn't whether we can work hard. We know how to work hard. We know how to build. We know how to nurture. We know how to lead and persevere. The real challenge often comes when it's time to step forward and be seen and to allow our voice to carry as much weight as our work. Today's guest understands that journey intimately. Krystle Phillips is a Trinidad and Tobago-based entrepreneur, author, systems strategist, and founder of multiple businesses. Her work has helped entrepreneurs and agro-processors across the Caribbean build stronger, more sustainable operations. She's also the author of Breaking Barrels, On Parenting the Parent, and Misdiagnosed, Why Micro Agro-Processors Are Set Up to Fail. But beyond the business accomplishments is a woman navigating a transition many of us can relate to, learning how to honor who she has always been while stepping more fully into the spotlight. Today, we're talking about identity. We're talking about leadership. We're talking about visibility, entrepreneurship, food security, and what it means to grow without losing yourself. And so, without further ado, we welcome Krystle to the conversation. Welcome, Krystle.
Thanks for having me, Jackie. We sound like we are about to talk about a whole lot.
Yes, we are. Yes, we are. And so, for those of us who are meeting you for the first time, Krystle, which includes myself, who is Krystle Phillips and who is she beyond the titles, the businesses, and all the accomplishments?
Who is Krystle? So beyond the titles, I am a very curious person, or let me say a curious woman, who spent most of her life trying to understand how things work and make them better, even though it wasn't the ideal thing to do in a lot of situations, growing up. Asking questions in the Caribbean is not the way. It's seen as rude, it's seen as disrespectful, but I've always been this curious person. I grew up in Laventille, which is basically the ghetto here in Trinidad. My father raised chickens, sold chickens, eggs, and ice. He died when I was 7. And when I started, when I was 7. And after he died, somehow like the hustle got passed on. I started selling zabacas. They might call them avocados or pears in your country, and red mangoes on the stairs. And I started earning money at 13 and then moved out around 15, 16. So responsibility came very, very early for me. And for a very long time, I thought who I was could be explained by what I could handle, how much I could build, fix, organize, carry, like how much I could do. Like my weight was tied to what I did.
Wow.
But I'm really trying to unlearn that, because I'm also a woman who loves to read, travel, and sleep whenever I get to sleep. Eat good food, laugh at nonsense. I'm curious, I'm talkative. My report book said it constantly. Krystle talks too much. I read like my life depends on it. I'm also learning that Krystle doesn't need to be producing something every minute to be valuable. That is like my biggest lesson for me. It's taken its time, but, again, a little bit closer to it bit by bit.
Wow. You said something that stood out immediately. You said you're waiting, who you are, I guess, was based on how much you did. Wow. I mean, in a day and age where people want to do less, But apart from that, I want to ask you this. What other aspects of your personality would your closest friends describe, right, that most of us wouldn't get to see in public?
My closest friends would say that I am softer than most people assume. They would say that I'm very protective. I notice when somebody's been uncomfortable or left out. I remember small details that they mention. Sometimes long after they forget it, I bring it back up and we could talk about it and they're like, wow, you remember that? You know,
Wow.
they'll say I'm funny.
Admirable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They'll say I'm funny, ridiculous, observant, but they also get to see the tired version of me. And
Mhm.
oddly enough, few of them actually even knew that there was a tired version of me. They thought I was always a strong one,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
So the public usually sees the outcome, the prettiness, the travels, the awards, the this, the that. But the people closest to me, they see when I'm trying to process the different things, questioning myself, wondering what comes next, the mistakes, the frustration, just me.
Mhm.
They see me.
Mhm. 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 They get to see the intimate side of, well, they get to know you more intimately than you would portray on the outside because what you have to be a strong woman for those that you're leading. Is that
Correct.
it? Okay. All right. So you mentioned that your dad died when you were 7. I'm so sorry about that,
Yeah.
but
Cancer is one of those things.
based on who you have become, Krystle,
Hmm.
seeing that your father wasn't present, who were some of the other influences that you had that would have shaped, right?
Hmm.
The woman and the leader that you are today.
Okay, so I wouldn't say it was a person. I would put it more of a thing. I don't want to say life. Life is so cliche, but to me, it would be responsibility. Responsibility came into my life before I even understood what it was. So after losing my father, that young, it changes everything automatically, right? And I had to figure out how to keep things moving. Another thing was observation. I was observant. I I'm one of those persons who learn from the mistakes of others. This is going and do it myself.
Tell
And
that to the
because
kids today.
yeah, I don't need to be to learn. I could look at whoever went through it in my surroundings and I like, oh, that is what happened when you stick your finger in the plug. And I learn. And I don't need to repeat it. I don't need to go through that exact same thing that that person did. And then you have reading. As I said, like I read like I used to donate books to the library. The amount
Oh,
of books I had, I used to donate books back to the library. When they saw me, they gave me their books that they were going to toss. I was a avid reader growing up, and I guess it probably helped me into writing. But yeah, as much as I learned stuff, I had to unlearn stuff as well, like hyper independence.
so it was mostly experiences rather than individuals. Most people talk about, the individuals in their life that would have
Mhm.
shaped them. But for you, it's the experiences that you've been through.
Yeah,
Wonderful.
yeah. It's the experience that with the people, yes, but to me, it was more the experience than the person. Mom taught me
Hmm.
responsibility. Reading taught me, the will is not just this; it's a whole lot more. So it was more of the experience and the things that I was intertwined with.
Right. And nothing beats being immersed in a situation, right? Nothing beats being immersed. All right. So we want to move into a section that I'm a little bit excited about.
Mm-hmm.
It really speaks to us as women finding our voice. And we know that that is one of the things that Caribbean women struggle with, finding our voice, speaking out, standing up for ourselves, knowing our worth, and stepping into rooms and places that, we belong. And so, yes, we want to talk about finding our voice. And you mentioned that your strength often, or your identity often showed up in the executions and the responsibilities that you have. What prompted the shift towards becoming more visible and allowing your voice to take up more space?
I spent years, decades actually, building the table, and then I was standing behind it. I wasn't at it; I was just behind it. I was comfortable executing. I could solve the problems, build the system, train the customer, make the idea real, do all the things. But then when it was time to speak about it publicly about the work, I just I just shrank myself. And it was strange. It's at one point I never even used to tell persons that I own the business because I didn't want the business to fail because they see me as a woman. And I totally quit, man. I don't want them to have less trust in the equipment because it's a woman selling them equipment. Like, what she know, right? And the funny thing is, I never struggled to talk. I was always talk. Like showing up for myself, standing up for myself is something that comes naturally. But when it came to my business and the stuff that I'm doing, it was wild, right? But I guess talking and allowing yourself to be seen is two different things because I could speak confidently about the work while still hiding the woman behind it. Right? And part of the shift, I believe, came from recognizing that visibility is not vanity. And right, because sometimes you're out there and you're thinking that when you're out there and you're saying, yes, this is me, this is what I did, it comes across sometimes as you're being vain, you're being a braggart, right? And it's not vanity. When your voice can help somebody understand their own experiences. Because I had like years with different entrepreneurs blaming themselves for the problems. That wasn't theirs, it was structural. I lived through experiences around caregiving and boundaries, responsibility, load, and survival that many, many Caribbean women understand, and currently going through. But they're not talking about it because it's too taboo. And at some point, I just stopped feeling to be quiet, just to hush. I decided, I started feeling like, as a human, it's your responsibility to share knowledge, information, and experiences as we wouldn't grow as a people, as a unit, as humanity. We wouldn't grow. And I just felt like I needed to start to share because I was withholding something that was important. So, and that's still...
Was there a specific point? I know you were saying that you're building the business and you even mentioned something that I love, which a lot of us also struggle with. Whether we are going for financing or that kind of thing, where people don't have a lot of faith in women as business owners. You spoke about that, right? But was there like something specific that led you to that point that say, hey, listen, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not going to stand behind. I need to show up as who I am.
I think it got sound silly, but I saw some persons who are less qualified, less knowledgeable, and less skilled than me building massive platforms. And I was like, girl, you've been doing this. You've been doing this. You've been doing this on the sidelines for years. I've been teaching people how to do this. I've been all over the place. I've been doing the traveling, building the businesses, working digital. Like, I've been doing these things for a very long time. I've just not been, parroting it, standing up on a podium talking about it, but I've been doing it. I've been focused on the doing versus the showing. And I'm like, why am I not showing? Because I started to realize that people equated success to what they could see this is what was actually happening. It makes sense, but it doesn't make sense at the same time. But I get it and I don't get it because I'm doing the things. Everybody happy, but nobody's seen that I'm doing the things. You need the proof, you need the show. And when I realized that, I was hesitant because I only started doing this maybe late 2025.
So let's talk about this aspect of it as well, because this is important, right? Let's talk about this aspect where we feel like we have to become someone else when we're showing up. How does that work for you?
Initially, I thought visibility just meant becoming louder, more polished, more certain, more proper, more of the ideal vision of what you're supposed to be. But that was exhausting. That's why I fell off initially. It was exhausting. And I learned that authenticity generally means not sharing everything. It means making sure whatever you share is true.
I love that. Making sure. Let's say that out loud. Making sure that
what you're
sharing is true.
Yeah, because truth is relatable. It feels like, yeah, man, that is me too. Right? Because I could be knowledgeable without pretending I know everything. I could speak about business and still tell people I was confused. I make a poor decision. I lose a ton of money. I change my mind. And another thing is I stopped removing the me from my voice, the Caribbeanness. It's like I tried to become this North American version of me. Trying to be so proper, like, it's not me. It's not me, that normal and that natural and that nothing. Like, why would I strip away what is me just to fit into a box? And
they love our accents, Krystle.
Tell me. And it's something I also tell people, and I just wasn't doing it myself. That next thing. Like, Why change yourself for others? You're not the people you want to attract is the people who think like you, act like you, and want what you have to share. Why pretend to be somebody else? Right?
So just be yourself.
Because I feel like professional spaces tend to reward a very polished, neat, packaged version of credibility. But every time the other song's so neat and certain, because that's not life. Business, of course, business is the most unneat, uncertain thing that ever existed. Right? And come on, people don't need another perfect, polished woman speaking at them. They need somebody who have credibility through experience and they could teach through humanity. You know, you're human enough to believe. It's not this full face, full glam, proper. No, we have enough of those. We have enough.
And people want to be able to identify with you, right?
Correct.
So let me ask you, when you made the change, because you said it was so exhausted when you started and you were trying to really be somebody else. So when you changed, did you see a difference? What are some of the things that you were able to notice happening as it relates to your business? Were you still accepted? And are we talking from an international or a local perspective?
Gosh, that's two different answers there. So locally, I still feel as though my value isn't fully accepted here because I do a lot better outside of Trinidad and Tobago waters than inside of Trinidad and Tobago. I feel like when I started being more me, I attracted the right clients, the right customers. It felt like exactly what I say, like, be you and you will attract the kind of person that would come to you. Right? And it became easier. Like even things like creating content became easier because I thought if I was to create content, I needed to put on the makeup, fix my hair, put on the right clothes, walk away, suck in my little bit of stomach, and do all the pretty things. But then it just became easy, to hop on a call with my hair a little frazzled, no makeup done, and just talk. I didn't need to perform. Because it's not performance. It became easier when I just decided to show up as me and be me and present me because it's me.
Well, I guess to be fair to other persons, putting on, well, I guess we have to differentiate between you putting on or you still being your natural self, because you have people who will, when you see them, you think that they go all out, but it is who they are, in fact.
Correct. Their natural self.
So it's for each person, each woman, I guess, to know what works for her and to know, as you said, when you put on the show, how exhausting it can become, right?
Yeah.
And because then you're not being authentic. You're not being yourself.
Because I have girlfriends who could do me putting on makeup, dressing, fixing my hair would probably take me, based on the day, 15 minutes to 3 hours. But I have because the 15 minutes is moisturizer and beauty balm. The 2 hours is trying to do all the everythings because I just so unaccustomed. It's exhausted. It doesn't feel normal to me. The makeup feels heavy, but as me personally, because I like to be, if you see me walking around the street, I'm very, very casual. But trust me, I have very, 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 very feminine friends who go through all these stuff, and it's natural for them.
Yeah, right. So that makes the difference. So as you mentioned femininity, let's talk about this. What does that mean to you in a world that, they often associate leadership with masculine traits? How are you able to display your femininity while you go about doing what you do?
The answer for me is that femininity is the freedom to be a whole woman. It's not a particular dress, voice, or performance of softness. It includes what we are innately, right? Tenderness, intuition, beauty, sensuality, care, emotional awareness. But it could also be firmness, anger, ambition, and boundaries. It's not just one thing. It's to be a whole woman, and we're multifaceted. We definitely not one thing and can't box us in. And for a long time, I believe competence meant being hard, right? Because I've worked almost all my life in male-dominated environments, including being the first female cable technician in Trinidad. Just say.
Wow.
Right? But Femininity to me now is not something you had to set aside to lead. It just changes the way I lead. Because I could be soft without being easy to manipulate, and I could be kind and still say no, right? I care about somebody, how I could care about how you feel, but without abandoning what the situation requires. And not opposite. Both things could be true. I could be both things at once.
Mm-hmm. Is there any instance that you can cite where you embracing your softer quality made you a better leader, like a scenario or something?
Well, several. I think it shows up more in business for me because I care a lot about my customers and it helps me build trust with them. Because when somebody's investing in a machine, they're not just purchasing metal, right? They're risking their savings, the family, the support, is an idea they've carried for years. And understanding the emotional weight helps me be better at the practical work. It helps me understand where they're coming from. It helps them feel seen because equipment purchases is very, very transactional. I want this, I buy this, we're done. No. I want to know why you want to do this, how you're doing this, where you go and place it, what problem that's going on solve it. So every single customer that I deal with, we have conversations, long conversations. And I understand them. I understand the pain points. And I understand that the exchange of good for money for service or money for good, what it means to them. And I believe that they appreciate the connection that we have during that exchange because the service is just very, very transactional typically. And when they get the opposite of a transactional purchase, it adds value. Like you could look at the reviews. They're happy because they feel seen. And I like seeing them. I like feeling like I'm a part of their process. I like feeling like I am. You could actually see it. You could actually see the difference that you make in their business. I have a customer who told me that he can't even hold a cup because he's been candling eggs candling is basically holding an egg up to the light to see what's going on the inside. And he's been doing it for years by hand. And when he purchased the machine, he was so happy. He said, he can't hold a cup because his hand has just been doing this for so long. He can't. And you see the value, you see the transition that it makes for him, for his quality of life, for his family, for his business. And this is how, being more feminine, being more me in the business helps me as a person and helps the business as a business and helps my customers to be, seen.
I really love that point because it is so important, as you said, it adds value when you go beyond just a transaction. And you said your equipment suppliers, which is your business, right? You go beyond just the transaction, right? And you said that's the feminine aspect of what you bring to the table. I can really appreciate that. All right, we're moving into another segment, right? That speaks about building businesses that last. And I want to ask you, as a multi-company entrepreneur, what lessons have you learned about sustainable growth versus simply staying busy?
I've learned that movement and progress are cousins, not twins, because you can be busy every day and avoiding all the work that actually grows the company. And I think a lot of people could actually relate to that. You're doing the busy work and not the hard work. For me, the hard work is doing cold calls. I hate cold calling. Right? Like reaching out for partnerships. Like I hate it. But tell me about a CRM automation. How I'll do it. But
what was that?
Like building out automations, like interlinkages without in different systems to make it work together. Like I could do that all day. But doing something as simple as picking up the phone and calling somebody. Hi, good day, this is Krystle. Right? But we do it, right? Sustainable growth, it just requires systems that could operate without the founder remembering them, chasing them, and fixing everything. It requires knowing which activities would produce revenue and which ones support the customer and which ones are simply making everybody feel occupied. In the past, I've made the mistake of adding people before fixing the process. Bad idea. Because you don't have a team. You have several people just participating, doing different things in the same confusion. And confusion, no. And growth also has to account for the founder's capacity, because if the business only works when I'm exhausted, available 24/7, holding together everything with memory, WhatsApp, a hope, and a prayer, that's not a strong business.
Right.
Right? And I just learned that sustainable growth often looks like it's less exciting than busyness. It involves documentation, training, repetition, reviewing numbers, fixing the same weak points until it genuinely gets fixed. It would never look impressive online, but it's what allows a business to last.
Do you think that based on what you're seeing, do you think that a lot of us focus on sustainable growth, or we just focus on business?
We focus on business, and we focus on business because we think that's what we're supposed to be doing. You're supposed to be doing all the things, and you put yourself in this constantly available mood, right? And I think it's something we need to shake out of. I think it's basically an understanding of what the business is, what you need to do and how you need to do it. Is an internal examination of yourself and why you do what you do, if that makes sense.
It does. It absolutely does, because a lot of the times we get a big idea, and ideas are good, right? But what about, what leads up to executing on that idea,
Yeah, I heard something yesterday and I wrote it down. It was really interesting. What are the things that if I work on gets me closer to the goal? And it was to allow you to analyze what the thing is, because you might be doing many things. You might be doing the cold call and the prospecting, you may be doing your numbers, you might be creating different systems, you might be updating your calendar, you might be buying fancy new things, you might be doing your social media. But what are the specific things that if you work on will move you closer to the goal, and then hone into those specific things? That would eliminate the busyness, because now you're focused on the specific things that would make you reach this goal.
That's a good point that a lot of us need to. I'm pretty sure that we know it, but sometimes I don't know. We just want to move from point A to Z, and it doesn't work like that. Yeah. All right. So your book, Misdiagnosed, challenges the idea that failure is always personal. I need you to talk a little bit about that, and why is it that you believe entrepreneurs need to think more critically about systems rather than blaming themselves?
Because self-blame is almost all the time easier than examining the environment that you're in. When a business struggles, the advice is almost always work harder, improve your mindset, post more contents online, or just become more disciplined and you will succeed. Yes, those things matter, but they can't solve every problem realistically. A processor might have excellent product, a strong demand, but they don't have access to proper equipment, reliable electricity, affordable testing, suitable packaging, financing, or even consistent raw materials. You can't mindset your way around a production bottleneck. You can't mumford it, right? So, Misdiagnosed asks entrepreneurs and policymakers and support organizations to diagnose the actual problem before prescribing another workshop.
Right.
Personal responsibility matters. Entrepreneurs still need to make sound decisions, understand the numbers, and execute properly. But structural reality matters too. We need enough honesty to hold both truths at the same time without making people feel responsible for fixing systems they didn't create and they can't control alone.
That's a very good point as well. What are some of the hidden challenges that we face as Caribbean entrepreneurs that you believe deserves more attention?
Scaling is a big challenge because our markets are small and fragmented. An entrepreneur might need to import equipment, packaging, raw material in quantities designed for companies serving millions of customers, while operating on an island with a smaller market, right? The MOQ might be 100,000. It's not sustainable. And shipping across gosh, I go and talk on I wouldn't talk too much on it, but shipping and access to foreign exchange can change the cost of doing business almost overnight, because you know the foreign exchange situation in Trinidad is Dante level hell worthy. I have no idea why it's so insane to get EC, US, pound, okay. Testing and certification is another issue. Usually you're told that you need to meet international standards. Okay, I want to sell my product, I need to meet international standards, but I don't have affordable or timely access to the infrastructure to meet them. And the same thing with access to finance. But it's not whether about the business is even structurally ready to use the finance. Sometimes I might give it to you, and you yourself don't even know what to do with it. It's so much little interconnected problems that deals with structure, right? So you're giving somebody a loan before helping them understand production capacity, equipment fit, market demand, and the unit economics of that thing. It basically could help them fail with more debt.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You're not making sure that they're in the position. Yeah, your job is to give the loan, but it should be different. It should be a little bit different. You're just giving them the loan, but you're helping them fail with more debt. Another challenge is support. It delivered it not in the right sequence or order. You would teach branding before the product is stable. You encourage exporting before production. Before the production is consistent. Or you fund the equipment before confirming it fits the business. The Caribbean don't lack talent or ideas. We just lack properly sequenced support. I don't know which, but it's just a frustrating thing for me because I see it so often.
Mm-hmm. So if you could speak to one person, I know you're coming from the perspective of the equipment because that is what you're into,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if you could speak to one entrepreneur about, just making sure that they have a structure in place to support what it is that they're trying to achieve, what would you say to that person? What is that one thing that is most important for them to get to where they want to be?
I would say what would be the most important thing for them to get to where they need to be will be understanding who they are. Because for the most part, a lot of us lead our businesses alone, understanding yourself and your own weaknesses. And after you understand yourself and your weakness, it's okay to delegate the things you're weak in. For some reason, we like to hold on and want to do everything. You don't want to share, you don't want to delegate. You don't want people to know that you're weak in certain areas. It's okay to be weak, you're human. Some pricky, you bleed. It's okay to be weak, mm-hmm. Right? So understand yourself, understand where you're strong, understand where you're weak, and put things in place to support where you are weak. And also, you don't need to put yourself in every position. Understand what requires you to be present versus what you choose to be present in because you feel if Jacob do it, he ain't gonna do it right, I need to do it. Understand the difference between the two, where what you actually need to do or what you choose to do.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that would be my advice.
Mm-hmm. All right. So I'm going back to what
Mm-hmm.
it is that you do. This company in particular that's, yes, your equipment suppliers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Tell us briefly what your equipment suppliers is all about. And then the fact that you work a lot with agro-processors, what are some of the opportunities that you see for innovation and growth within Caribbean agriculture?
Oh,
maybe you could add in, why did you venture into that area? I'd love to know.
Okay, let me see if I can remember all the questions and answer sequentially.
Oh, Lord.
So yes is what I tend to say is a partner in your business development, because that is what we try to be. We try to, well, for who wants us, we're a partner in your business development. We're here to help you with equipment, service, installation, after sales, we try to do everything in regards to having your processing system up and running properly and sustainably. You would not come to us and we will oversell you. I undersell. I tell people, go to the hardware and get this, go to the plumbing store and get that. I will not take your business if it has somebody locally or somebody that I'm aware of that does a better service or have the product available for you now. I do believe that the market is big enough for 4 or 5 more of me. So I'm not in the habit of gatekeeping. I tend to share as much information as possible. I tend to have as much tools available as possible. And I try to price everything at that same level. So you'll come on the sites and you'll find things like profit calculators, things to calculate your packaging, business plans. I tend to have the things that I believe my type of customers need, and what they need is support. That is what Yes is. Yes is your partner in your business development. We support through equipment, training, education, and community.
So it's all types of businesses.
Yeah, our core business is agro-processing and food production, but we do support other businesses because, I started off differently.
Mm-hmm.
And your second question, I believe, I'll answer your third question and then I'll answer your third question and then your second question. Your third question was why I ventured into this.
Right.
I stumbled into Yes. I started my first business at 18 and it was procurement. Went to work for the man and realized I couldn't work for the man and started back business again. And I started in, I think it was like concession equipment, popcorn machines, cotton candy, that kind of thing. And pretty soon, I think my first big break was with some local company, I think. And they wanted some type of part. And then somebody else wanted some kind of equipment. And when I was supplying them, I realized, well, hold on, nobody else is helping this group of people. You have different businesses, and I'm just not talking about Trinidad. I'm talking about a couple of islands because I went island hopping first because, I decided to look within first. And I realized I didn't have anybody supporting processors, persons making a product, taking something from the raw form into a final form around me. And I was like, why? And it just dawned on me that this would be a great business opportunity. I went into it for the profit initially because that's what I went into. I wouldn't say it was for some type of altruistic purpose. I went into it for the money. But when going into it for the money, I started being touched by the stories of the people. And my degree is in cooperatives. Cooperatives is essentially community building. So with that in my background and falling into this community that I've seen this big, big gap in, it just felt like kismet. It just made sense. And deeper I got into it, more passionate I became about it. More passionate I became about the customers, the equipment, the service. And I started adding on things. Because we only started out with parts and equipment. And then it became parts, equipment, service. Parts, equipment, service, training. Parts, equipment, service, training, documentation. Parts, equipment, training, documentation, certification. And it just kept growing into more and more because while you're in it, you keep seeing the need for the different things, the help that different people need. And it just kept snowballing into this ecosystem of support. Right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And your second question, which I'm answering third, is what opportunities I see for them.
The agriculture within Caribbean agriculture, yeah.
I honestly believe that there's a tremendous opportunity to move beyond selling only raw products. I am a bit flummoxed. I love using that word. Flummoxed as to why we only stick in raw products, right? Because you earn one amount from selling mangoes, cassava, cocoa, and peppers in the natural form, right? But processing can create several additional products with longer shelf life to wider markets. But Innovation cannot just mean telling farmers to add value. Praise sound nice, but it leaving out everything else. We need to connect production, processing, preservation, packaging, testing, branding, and distribution together. There are opportunities in dehydration, freeze drying, concentrates, ready to cook products. We're missing on that ready to cook product market. Functional foods that would normally become waste. If you walk through your market, the back of your market, like let me say after tree, is waste. That could have been repurposed to be another product. They could have done something with it. The
Okay.
mango that's swallow, it could have turned into a jam, a juice, a balm, or something else could have been done with it instead of it turning into waste. We need equipment that fits the scale of Caribbean producers. A machine shouldn't be so small that it can support growth, but it shouldn't be so large that the entrepreneur is spending years and years and you're sacrificing, you had to name your firstborn child and just to try and maintain your installments. The opportunity is not about producing more, it's in losing less.
I love that. Yeah.
Processing smarter and just increasing the shelf life and keeping more value within the region. Again, keeping more value within the region. The export bill's too high. The import bill's too high.
I love all of that. So I guess if there are any women out there who, they're trying to figure out, what can I do? Maybe this is something that they can look into, or even the men, because, our audience is wide. So there's the opportunity right there, and Krystle is ready to help us out and help move us into that area if we so desire. All right, so wonderful conversation so far, and we're getting into the segment that talks about legacy and the next generation, which is so important. I mean,
yeah,
what can I say? Such a challenge, but we have to rise to it, right? Because we have to save the next generation, and
we have to. We had a lady for them.
When you look at the next generation of Caribbean women, I guess you're Gen Zs mostly, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. But what excites you most about their future, though?
I love a lot of things about them, including the fact that they are questioning things earlier. Most of us, we inherited rules about womanhood, work, and sacrifice, and we didn't realize that these rules were optional until much later. And I see the younger woman asking, why must I carry this? Why is this normal? Why can't I not choose differently? Why? And I love it, right? Because they're doing what we didn't even think was possible to be done, which is questioning things.
Right.
Right. They have a greater access to information, technology, global markets. A young woman in Trinidad could learn a skill. You learn a skill online, you work with a company in the next country, you build an audience, you create opportunities without wasting or waiting for a traditional institution or, your good old government work to save you. Right? What excites me is their boldness and the willingness to just stand up and say, here I am, and take up this space. But on the flip, what concerns me is the pressure to appear successful before they've had the time to develop substance. Visibility can make you known quickly, but competence takes time. And it's almost as though they think they're expected to know it all. But there's no shame in being a beginner. There's no shame in learning quietly before announcing yourself as an expert. I just really hope that they keep the courage while respecting whatever craft they fall into.
And was there a belief, looking back, was there a belief about success or leadership or womanhood that you have changed your mind about over the years?
I used to believe that the strongest person in the room was the one who needed the least amount of help. I no longer believe that. Sometimes the person who refuses help is not strong. She might be afraid. She might be afraid of disappointment, afraid of dependence, afraid of judgment, afraid of losing control. And I also believe that good leadership meant always having the answer. But now I think good leadership is about the ability to identify the real question, bring the right people together, and admit when the current approach isn't working. I constantly ask my team, does this make sense? Because when you're in something, you tend to get blind to problems, to see situations because you're in it all the time. So you always need to guard against yourself. So you need to ask the questions. Does this make sense? Is this still working? Anything here seeming out of place? And you ask the questions. And for womanhood, I believe that sacrifice was the clearest way to prove love. I don't even know where it came from. Like sacrifice and love is it intertwined. But now I believe that love without boundaries could become resentment, exhaustion, and obviously a loss of self. Because there's nothing noble about disappearing from your own life to prove that you care about everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And we see it often, right? You see it?
Yeah.
It's wild.
It's a good point. Looking at all that you do, your life's work, if it could be summarized in one message for the future generation, because they're the ones that we really paying attention to, or we want to impart something to as well, right? So if your life's work could be summarized in one message for them, what would that message be?
Do not confuse what you survived with what you must continue accepting. Survival teaches us valuable skills. It's a good teacher. It can make us resourceful, disciplined, observant, and creative. But survival could also normalize struggle. And you begin to believe that everything meaningful must be difficult. And the ability to endure something is a reason to keep enduring it. So use what survival taught you to build something better, not something prettier. Right? Not prettier vision of the same thing. As we like to say, same khaki pants.
Okay, that's a deep one.
Yeah, because
that's a deep one that really we need to think about, even not just for the next generation, but even for us as women as we are today.
Yeah, we had to be unlearning it still. Like, well, I'm still unlearning it. I write a book about it and I still unlearn it myself. It's so hard it must be hard. Why we expecting struggle from everything? Why everything, if you're in struggle, claw and fight for it?
And we must bravely let it go, because sometimes, we become aware of these things, these nuances that go against us, but we don't sit with it and say, hey, listen, just as how we need to establish boundaries, there are certain things that we need to change about how we are experiencing life, and that is one of the messages that we want for women to understand, that you can bravely decide that you're not accepting something, and make the necessary change. Be brave enough to make the necessary change, right?
Yeah, that's just blessed with free will.
It's the socialization, but like I say, we always get to a point where we must recognize that this thing or this thought process or whatever experience we're going through is causing us more harm than it is good, and then we need to make the change. It's okay. All right. What is one belief you've had to let go of in order to become the woman you are today? It goes back to what we're just saying, right? So tell us one of the things that you had to say, hey, listen, I'm done with this. Yeah.
Being useful. Being useful. I had to let go of the belief that my value comes from being useful. The belief it made me capable, but tired. When your identity is built around being the person who solves everything, you become uncomfortable even when you're resting, receiving help, or just existing. The thoughts in your mind, who need this, who need that, how to do this, how to do that, is a constant loop in the back of your mind, like that bad song.
Yeah.
And then you begin attracting situations and relationships where your usefulness is valued more than your humanity.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to stress on situations and relationships because it's not just business, is in life, is in romantic relationships, business relationships. Overall, you just start attracting these things where your usefulness is more valued than your humanity. And I'm learning that I do not have to earn care by overperforming. I don't have to become indispensable to deserve a place in someone's life or in someone's business. I wish I could say that I completely mastered that, but I haven't. But I could recognize the pattern now, and that is where change starts.
So you have you're the author of 2 books, Breaking Barrels on Parenting the Parent and Misdiagnosed: Why Micro Agro-Processors Are Set Up to Fail. Tell us one thing from each book that you would want a woman to take away. One thing from each of those books.
Okay, so I do actually have more than 2 books. That's my most recent too.
Oh, really? How many books have you written, Krystle?
I have 6 books currently.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that's just my 2 recent books.
Oh, those are the last. Okay. All right.
Yeah. Right.
And these books are on Amazon?
Yeah, all my books are on Amazon.
Okay. All right.
So those are the most 2 recent, and I also have some in progress, but okay.
Mm-hmm.
So what I want women to learn from the books, I hope that they learn, so not just for the Gen Zs, I hope that they learn to question the explanation they have been given. In Misdiagnosed, I want entrepreneurs to ask whether they are truly feeling or whether the system around them is poorly designed. And in Breaking Barrels, I want women, particularly Caribbean daughters and caregivers, to question whether love must always require self-erasure, because both books are asking a similar question. Is the problem really you? Or have you been taught to accept a system that is not working?
Mm-hmm.
And I really hope that women leave my books feeling less alone and more willing to make a different decision, because recognition is useful, but change is better.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And just we hit the nail on the head in that the last set of questions that we talked about, which emphasizes change. That change is needed. What brings you joy these days, though, Krystle? Let's end with that. What brings you joy?
What brings me joy? Joy for Krystle these days looks like traveling. It reminds me of how large and interesting the world is. Reading still brings me joy. I still read like crazy whenever I get the chance, because I still feel at home in a book. A book still transports me, and I will take a book over a movie any day.
Mm-hmm.
Good food.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, honestly, like a book allows you to use your whole imagination. It could be anything.
Mm-hmm.
When you're watching a movie, it's just that thing.
What's the best book you have read, though? Let me put you on the spot. What's the best book you've read? And give us like
I don't know.
something, take away.
Too much works. I have found myself in love with dystopian books recently. I have been reading this book called Crash by Michael Robertson that speaks about like an economic decline and the world goes into chaos. That has had my heart lately, but I think like throughout different times of my life, I like different types of genres.
Mm-hmm.
So right now, dystopian has me anything that deals with what happens after the end of the world, what happens with the economic crash, what happens if aliens come to the planet. Like any of those books hold me entirely right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because they started feeling less like non-fiction, though.
I can imagine you and my son. You should have that in common. You could probably exchange books.
yeah, that has been holding me.
Okay, awesome. All right, Krystle, thank you so much for sharing, with us today, the wisdom from your experiences, your journey, and your perspective. One of the things I appreciate most about this conversation is that growth doesn't really require us to become someone new, right? Sometimes growth is simply having the courage to fully embrace who we have always been. We spoke about that, the authentic side of us, right? And to everyone listening, I hope today's conversation reminded you that your voice matters, your experience matter, and the things you build behind the scenes deserve to be seen. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the Beyond Woman Conversations on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Podbean. You can also visit us at TheBeyondWoman.com for more inspiring stories, features, and resources created for women who are building lives of purpose, impact, and possibility. And so until next time, keep growing, keep showing up, and keep becoming the woman you're always meant to be. Thank you so much for Krystle for sharing space with us today.
Nah, I completely enjoyed this. It was nice to share.
Wonderful. Okay.